1.2, Pledge of Allegiance will be led by students from the varsity bowling team.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for coming. My name is Andy Robley. I'm a member of the board. I'm here to give you guys these pins. If you would, please look into the camera, say your name, and I'll hand you a pin.
Eric Hodson.
You could tell us what grade you're in as well.
Okay, I'm a senior.
Thanks.
Kaylee Fallon, I'm in 11th grade. Alyssa Lawrence, and I'm a senior. Michaela Titus, and I'm in 7th grade.
David Watkins, I'm a sophomore.
Caitlin Fiacco, and I'm a freshman. Caitlin Stoddard, and I'm in 7th grade.
Brandon Titus, I'm a senior.
David Stillman, I'm in 9th grade.
And you want to step out here, sir.
Tyler Quinn, I'm in 10th grade.
Thank you.
Andrew Kopak, 10th grade.
Samuel Breen, senior.
Michelle Feldman, girls coach.
Thank you.
I'm Brandon Slate, and I'm the boys coach.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you all for coming out. And how is the bowling going? Yeah, I see you have some medals there. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
We won our all-county tournament, and the boys came in second. We are both #1 in our section 3. The girls are going to states as a team in Long Island, and Andrew Kopak joined the states team to be with other people that have also competed in basically a roll-off with
Wonderful.
the best bowlers.
That's great. Well, thanks for coming out. Let's give them a round of applause.
Good luck to those of you that are going to states.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Coaches, did you want to say anything? or-
Roll it, baby. Good luck, guys. Good luck. Sam, what are you doing? Yeah,
Thank you guys for coming.
Oh, no.
2.0, approval of the agenda with addendum, tabling 8.4.
Do you have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Andy,
Second.
seconded by Kathy. Discussion?
I would like to pull, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me, policy 5572 from the agenda. It's the first reading. In 5572, there's language that changes the role of the internal auditor, that last part, and the associated duties of the audit committee. So I wanted to make sure that the audit committee was involved in that conversation and that we were able to take a look at the audit committee charter. I don't have that. Does anybody have the exhibits with them, and I could point out which one it is? I'm sorry, I meant to make a copy here.
12.5 maybe.
It looks like it's, yeah, 12.5.
Copy of the exhibit.
Exhibit 12. But it's 55, I think it was at 5572.
I have the exhibit, do you want it?
If I could just look over your shoulder for a second.
You can take it over there with you if you'd like.
So Dia, you want to table 12.5 until the next meeting?
I'd like to remove it until the audit committee has a chance to meet
Okay.
and to review the, no, it wasn't 5572, 5570 maybe? May I just look over your shoulder? Yes. Yes, 5570 speaks to internal controls, and then it removes the wording, the risk assessment, and the internal auditor from the last paragraph.
Okay, so that's 12.6, I believe.
Okay, right, so it's 5570 is the policy that we need more information on, and we need to review it.
Okay. All right, so why don't we table 12.5 and 12.6, because they both, they refer to that, please. So we'll table those two as well.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, it's not tabling them, it would be removing them from the agenda.
All right, we'll remove 12.5, 12.6.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried?
3.0, minutes of previous meeting.
Moved.
Moved by Bill,
Second.
seconded by Andy. Discussion?
Yes, I'm sorry. In 6.11, the recommendation, it says the recommendation was this by the superintendent of schools. I know that the agenda said that, but it was the recommendation of the internal auditor. And because of the nature of the audit committee, I think it needs to be worded in that fashion. I don't know if we have to go back and amend the resolution, 6.11. I have the agenda from the 11th.
From the previous meeting. Okay.
So point of order, I don't know if we can just change it in the minutes or if we have to go back and amend that resolution. It's a subtle difference, but it's important because the superintendent is not a member of the audit committee. So it shouldn't. It was the recommendation of, so it was in the agenda. I didn't object to it at the time. I didn't really even see it until I read the minutes through tonight.
So do you want to make the change, or would you like it to appear on another agenda? Fixing
I am okay to make the change. I'm not sure what
That's,
everybody else wants to do.
does everybody remember what it was referring to? The risk assessment. Alicia Maddie came to the last board meeting and she recommended for the risk assessment. So it was just the wording.
It's just the wording
Dee
that it
wants
should-
changed. Instead of saying it was a recommendation of the superintendent to change it to, it was the recommendation of the internal auditor.
I think it's an important change. Thank you.
Everyone in agreement with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in
Is it-
favor? I'm
Is
sorry.
it on the recommendation of the internal auditor or the audit committee to accept the audit?
Well, the audit committee didn't have a quorum. Normally, it would have been the audit committee,
just
but
wanna
the
make
only
sure I get
member
it
of the
right.
audit committee there was me.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it should state internal auditor. Auditor.
Just want to make sure I get it right.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried?
4.0, verbal communications, residents wishing to be heard. Any resident of the Auburn Enlarged City School District is welcome to address the Board of Education on items pertaining to the education and/or the operation of the school district. There will be time provided on the agenda at this point. Any resident wishing to address the Board of Education is requested to come forward to the lectern on being recognized and to give his or her name and address. Questions related to the employees of the district will not be permitted. Such questions should be referred to the superintendent at another time. Residents have been asked to sign in at the lectern and limit their presentations to 3 minutes or less.
Do we have any residents this evening wishing to be heard? Any residents? Okay, thank you.
5.0 Superintendent's Reports. 5.1 Update from Student Representatives Jordan Middleton and Elena Slayton.
Good evening.
Hi.
Nice to see you, Jordan.
Good, how are you?
Glad to be back. Well, I'd just like to say that on March 19th from 5 to 7 at the Knights of Columbus, the junior class is hosting a pasta dinner to help fundraise for this year's events like prom, and then help lead over into senior year to also fundraise for prom and other events that we're going to be holding. It's $8 per person, and we're going to start selling tickets tomorrow around school and around town. If anyone's interested, for a flyer, I have some. And just pick one up right here if you'd like.
Okay, thank you.
I'm assuming everybody has heard. Several of student athletes and teams have won Section 3 championships or qualified for the state tournament this winter sports season. Our boys hockey team has qualified for the state hockey tournament after they just won an exciting game on Saturday against Skinny Atlas. Not only is it our hockey team, we have other students on the swimming, the bowling, the indoor track. And in order to celebrate their accomplishments, to wish them good luck, we will be having a pep rally on Thursday morning at Auburn High School.
Are we hosting a game? Did I hear that correctly?
On Saturday at 2:30 at Casey Park.
Okay. Could I make a note to the board? I don't know if this was in our jurisdiction, but I had a phone call regarding space in the parking lots due to the snow, and there's a concern about parking because this is going to draw a big crowd, obviously. So if we could make a phone call to Parks and Recreation or Street Department to see if they adequately open that up, because I heard it's tight.
Yep, we'll take it.
No problem. Thank you, and good luck to the hockey team and everyone else that's participating in states and sectionals.
5.2 District-Wide Supply List Committee, Mr. Ron Gorney.
Mr. Gorney is not here this evening, so we're going to have to move on.
Okay. 5.3 Capital Project Update, CNS Companies, and Mr. Garuccio, Superintendent of Buildings and Grounds.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Art. How are you? Good, and you? I'll go first.
Oh, you got it. I'm stepping in for Mr. Garuccio, who had his keys locked in his car, and he's stranded right now. So I told him I would step in for him. Again, we're moving. Our progress is going excellent with our capital project. We have a lot of door work going on at the high school. Art's going to give us an update of where we're at, getting ready to push forward with our punch list. And I know Sam is getting excited because we want to start our tours, not only with our Board of Education members, but with our community members as well. So I will let Art tell you where we are in the process so that we can start those tours up very soon.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I need these, so you'll have to forgive me. Doors, great topic. In the last 2 weeks, we have changed out approximately 160 doors and transoms here in the high school. Considering we had 166 doors to do, I'm pretty happy with that in a 2-week period. The doors look great. The contractor's been doing a really good job with it. There are 6 doors that are currently MIA. We've got an update on when we're going to be receiving those. We're not going to get them all at the same time. Right now, we're going to get one frame the 6th of March, and then we're getting the doors for Genesee School on 3/10 is the ship date we have for those. So hopefully in the next week or two, 10 days or so, we'll have all the doors in, and we'll be able to get that work completed. The architect has, in fact, started issuing punch list. One of the things that we had a major issue with was a lot of the windows were not up to his standards. That work has all been completed. And to my knowledge, in working with Carl Acuri, everything seems to be facing the right direction, and there's no wind blowing through them anymore. So we've got all of those issues taken care of. The gas line in the boilers has been changed. We now have not only enough pressure, we have enough volume going to the boilers. I understand the high school was a little chilly this morning. The electrician made a mistake over the weekend when he was working, but we rectified that relatively quick this morning. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that. All 3 boilers here in the high school are functioning and functioning properly. I was there before I came in here, so. Abatement work in the music room, door, it would be door A213C. That has been done. The door replacement is underway. It is not complete, nor is the repairs to the soffit, but that is coming along quite nicely as well. So overall, between the electrical, the doors, the punch list work that we have received punch list for, in the HVAC work, it's been a great 2 weeks. Contractors have really done a great job. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to field them.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure seeing you all again. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we had some data requests from the board at a couple of meetings ago asking for an update on how we did on our latest mid-year Regents exams. So those results are in, and we've begun compiling those. And I think it's very important to sort of point out that the January Regents exams are typically retakes for our students. So the students who didn't pass following June or didn't pass summer school at the August time frame have an opportunity to take the exam again in January. And so predominantly the students that are taking these exams have either failed the exam once or twice leading up until this point. So very traditional. We've got our trigonometry. I think we only had 3 students taking this exam, or 4 students taking. It was not a lot of students. And we had, I think, 1 pass that one. Our chemistry, we had a few more take that. 50% passing rate for those that failed the previous year. Most of these kids are in some sort of either review class or retaking the class and are challenging out at mid-year if they can pass the Regents. So we did have many students that were able to take advantage of that and sign up for other electives in the spring semester. The only one here that is a little bit different is our Regents ELA. And we have our honor sections that will take that. And all of the students who took the Regents ELA for the first time this January passed it. So the reason why it's down to 81.6 is for those students, again, that retook it who had already failed previously. So I really looked at that and said, okay, so what does that mean? Because we did have some courses that ended at the semester. We have a couple of art classes that ended. We had technology classes that ended. And really we had 2 big ones. All of the PEs end in the fall, and then our senior level econ and government that ends in the fall as well. And I was impressed. We had a 32% passing rate between a 95 and 100. So out of all the scores, that's is about as good as it gets, and 32% of all our final averages fell into that one category. We're only down here at 6% that actually failed a mid-year course. So out of the thousands of courses that ended, 6% is actually very, very good. And so what I did is I said, well, geez, I really want to sort of play with the data here and see if there was anything alarming, either with a particular subject area or for a particular demographic of our students. And again, I know I demoed this a little bit earlier at a previous board meeting, but one of the things, it kind of comes back to, and I know I showed you IQ, and this is a data mining software that runs on top of our new student management system. This is essentially the same chart that I just had up on the screen for you. It's broken down every 5 points all the way down from 100 all the way down. And each one of these points, we can click on and drill in and actually get the student names. So this would be all the students at the high school and where they wound up on their, again, final course scores. So these are courses that ended at the mid-year. But we do get the ability to play with this a little bit. And if you'll bear with me just a second. So if I select social studies and we update the page, this will give us all the semester classes that ended at the mid-year in social studies. So really our PIG and econ. And again, our percentages look very good, a very high percentage. We got 90 students that scoring between 95 and 100, and we only have 4, 10, 12, 13 students that did not pass senior high elective at the mid-year. And again, the benefit of this is that we can click on those, get the names, get those schedules adjusted so that we can work with the counselors to adjust those schedules to get them doubled up, so hopefully we can still get them graduated on time. And again, out of those, we can look at students that have an IEP, and we can do an update very quickly. And out of those 12 students, only 3 had an IEP. So again, we're seeing that our students with disabilities are performing well in their senior high classes, and again, gaining those credits towards graduation. So this is how this sort of works and benefits. We're going to take a little bit of time at our secondary principals meeting next week. We're going to dive into this a little bit. PE is another one because we have such a large, all of our phys ed classes are done by the semester. Again, we can take a quick peek at PE. And this would be 9 through 12. But again, we see a lot of students that are falling into, we had 34 students that missed it between a 60 and a 64. So what can we do to help those kids to make sure that they're falling on the other side of that and actually gaining that credit? And again, we can drill in, we can get the student names, and we can get those students into another section of PE and double up if their schedules will permit. I think one of the other data pieces, and I think it's fair to mention, at the last board meeting, the board asked for orchestra and band numbers that went down. We are in the process of gathering those numbers historically. But the issue that we're having is that at the elementary level, it's not a hard schedule the way it is at the middle school and high school level. So to pull those out and say, how many kids did you have in band? It's not something that we can go to our student management and pull. We looked at our elementary report card that we generated here, and can we pull those scores off the elementary report card? It was not reported on our standard elementary report card, so that data was not available to us in a quick fashion. So we have polled our teachers from that to provide us with rosters so that we can go through those and compile those. So we'll send those along in the Friday update. And we've heard back from 3 out of the 4 for that historical data. Okay. Are there any questions on this or something that you care to see in particular? Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
5.5, discussion, 4th grade orchestra, Mr. Moon and Mrs. Green.
Just to piggyback off of what Mr. Moon just submitted about some of the barriers that have been presented in collecting the data for student enrollment for orchestra and band at the elementary level. Again, we'll continue working on that. But in working on that, we have communicated with elementary music teachers, and I think it's important to share that some of the feedback they gave us was to gently remind the board and the public that when we reconfigured as a school district and we moved 6th grade into the elementary schools, we did lose much music time for 6th grade students, and they would hope that that would be a consideration before adding additional FTE or additional personnel to restore orchestra and band at the 4th grade level, that we would look to support music at the 6th grade level because of the amount of time that was lost. And so I thought it was important to relay that to the board and to the public, because again, if there are resources available and we move to restore fourth grade music, when the students rise to 6th grade, their music instruction will still have been diminished because of the reconfiguration that occurred a few years ago. And it's a significant reduction in time at the 6th grade level.
Thank you.
I do remember the closing of West and the report Mr. Miller did in the fall following about what we did to the 6th grade music program again at that time. I don't mean to make this more work, but is this the time to really take a look at the entire music program as a whole, broaden the scope of this conversation, and to say, what do we want our music department to look like? Where are we going with this? Rather than, we've pulled out chunks of the music program over time. We have gaps. We need to, provide consistent and quality music education for all of our students. So rather than just focus this on 4th grade, and now we've broadened it to 6th grade, perhaps we should broaden it all the way and take a look at the entire music education for our students and what we can do and what our vision for that program is. We have that opportunity. So I don't mean to make more work, but I think it's worth considering.
I don't think the teachers would actually see that as work. I think that would be something that they would be happy to engage in terms of visioning for music education in our district, particularly because of the time for learning for music instruction that has been reduced over time. It has created some gaps, particularly again at the 6th grade level, and so I think they'd be happy to look at the program holistically in the way that you've suggested.
And I think that to help us understand what a good music education is, I think that sometimes I feel when I'm making decisions about these topics that I don't really understand what it is. What is, I trust that we have excellent music educators and things are going along fine, but I've been asked on several occasions to make decisions, and I want to know what other districts are doing. What are the what other districts can we compare ourselves to? What are the school districts that have achieved excellence in music education, and does that differ from our current situation, and if it does differ, how? So I would be interested as the Board of Education to understand that.
So you want us to look at similar districts, small city. I used to work for the Oswego City School District, for example, who have achieved excellence in music over the years. That would be a similar district to look at in terms of size and demographics.
And what are those also, what are those markers? What constitutes achievement in that area? We've had lots of metrics thrown around, like the number of students in all county, the number of students in state, the number of graduates from Auburn High who are music majors. Is that, are those the things that people look at when they talk about a successful music program? And are those measurable things that we can can measure our goals against as well.
Anyone else have any thoughts you want to add on?
No, I agree with you. I think we do need to look at our program, and we should look at it, look at it, all the way across the board, and look at it through the years and see what we can do. Maybe there's something to look at outside the box. I don't know. And see what we're doing. But I think Dia's got a point.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
5.6, update on 2014-2015 budget. Mrs. Green and Ms. Evelyn.
Last week, we talked about the administrative and the capital components of the budget, or 2 weeks ago. So tonight, we're going to talk about the third piece, which is the programming or instructional piece portion of the budget. BOCES is included in this piece, but we won't be discussing BOCES tonight. We don't have final numbers from them. I believe Bill Speck and Pete Clucci are coming to our next meeting to present the BOCES budget. So tonight we'll talk about curriculum and supervision. First, this first section includes the assistant superintendent for curriculum, as well as her secretary, 2 literacy coaches, the athletic director, and the secretary for the athletic director. This is down 1 position. In last year's budget, we had a curriculum director position that was not filled this year. And instead, the chief information officer position was created. Supplies are minimal for this budget, and we'll look at the contractual items on the next page. Primarily, the biggest item here are the textbooks. This is for any new textbook series that are adopted. The budget is tied to the state aid dollars that we're given. We are allocated $58.25 per pupil for textbooks. So that's where this money is budgeted, along with there's $30,000 in the teachers' contract that we're budgeting for professional development conferences. You will see about a $15,000, well, it's about a $17,000 increase this year. Last year, $15,000 of the conference money was supported with grant funds, and this next year that won't be the case. The instruction budget, this is actually where all of the classroom instruction teachers are. This does not include special ed, so this is teachers other than special ed. 317.9 FTEs. This includes an elementary classroom teacher, an additional elementary classroom teacher, an additional elementary math coach position, 1.5 ESL positions, and that will be a savings of about $100,000 from having the program at BOCES. We'll be bringing that back in-house. And then increasing a 0.6 home and technology teacher to a full 1.0 FTE. Those are the personnel changes. Contractual is on the next slide, or a couple of slides later. The supplies budget is basically, this is for all of the classroom supplies and all of the different departmental supplies. Each teacher is allocated $125 for classroom supplies, and they're able to submit their order for those items. They'll do that this spring. Our class size targets have not changed. Kindergarten through second, 20 to 25, and then third grade up through 12th is 25 to 30. That's our target. And for any electives, we like to see a minimum of 20 students for an elective to be offered. Here's a breakdown of the 317.9 FTEs between the classroom teachers, teacher assistants, counselors, librarians, and principals. Again, this doesn't include the special ed positions, or there are, you'll see on the next page, there are 22 positions, general classroom positions that are funded with grant funds. So in total, 339 instructional staff. This is some of the contractual detail. We're allocated again for state aid for library purchases, $6.25 per student. And again, the textbook purchases. Half of the textbook money is allocated in the budget within Leela's control for district purchases for new series. And then the other half is allocated to the building budgets, and they can purchase, individual replacement books or smaller series for their classrooms. But it's total $58.25 per student. The other contractual is a broad variety of just small miscellaneous items across all of our buildings. So it's very minimal amount, under $15,000. The technology department, that there is an increase in salaries here. This is where the chief information officer's position is. So that's just a movement from the curriculum to technology. There is the CIO, the network coordinator, 4 technology support individuals, the 2 staff developers that work with the staff and technology, and there are 5 technology clerks. There's a 0.5. No, there's a full technology clerk in each elementary building to assist with any technology issues. The equipment dollar amount that you see is, again, that's a function of state aid. We receive $24.20 for each student for equipment, hardware. The supply budget, most of this is for printer supplies, ink cartridges, cables, audio-visual supplies, and then the contractual is on the next slide. Most of this money is our instructional software. Again, tied to state aid, we receive $14.98 per student for software. This is up a little bit. Our student count was up slightly. Student services. This includes our assistant superintendent for student services. There are 8 new special ed positions, 4 additional special ed teachers, and 4 aide positions included in these salary lines. That accounts for the increase. The equipment allows us, if we need to purchase any assistive technology for special ed students, and many years we don't spend any of this money, and then this year we happened to need a purchase that was more than the $2,000, so we had to transfer from another equipment line, but we're trying to strike a balance and put some funds in there. Contractual we'll look at on the next slide. Supply lines, again, this is the $125 per classroom teacher.
And the salaries, I just want to expand on, since we didn't start with a new assumption page, just to sort of to recollect the things that we've been reviewing over the last couple of meetings. We started with the assumption that we would hire 7 new special education teachers and aides to support what teachers have been telling us about resources that human resources that are needed to support a more inclusive approach to educating students in Auburn. The next time we met, we moved that number from 7 to 5. 5 special ed teachers and 5 aides, because after meeting with principals, we recognized some enrollment needs at the elementary level. And obviously, there's only a finite amount of resources. So now we are down to 4 special ed teachers and 4 aides. In recognizing that when we went out for an instructional coach for mathematics at the elementary level, we were not able to capture a professional in Auburn, and we believe it was because the job was posted as a 1-year only job that was supported by grant money. And so, again, feedback from our educators have prompted us to try to incorporate the math instructional coach in the general budget. Perhaps in that way we can attract a professional to Auburn to provide math coaching, job-embedded professional development for our elementary teachers to support our new math series. So again, that's the reason for the reduction in the number of special ed teachers we would have added, and the addition instead of the math coach.
Contractual items include our tuition that we have to pay for foster care, students that go to other districts. And Auburn is their home district. We have to pay the other schools just as we bill other schools for students who come to our school through foster care programs. It also includes any students that are placed in state facilities. That is down significantly from 12-13 to 13-14. We had a couple of students who turned 21 and were no longer eligible for the services, so they're no longer coming to school, but that also did reflect in a reduction in our state aid. OT and PT services is up slightly, the occupational and physical therapy for our students. And then the other services include any independent evaluations that we have to have done, all the memberships to the human service organizations that we belong to, and mileage for staff. The staffing in the student services budget is $107.5 in the general fund, and then we have 44 positions that are funded through grants. Transportation budget. This year, the salaries reflect just a 0.5 for our supervisor of transportation. She's part-time. In the current year's budget, that was budgeted at full-time, so that's a reduction for next year. The contractual we'll look at on the next slide, and then the gasoline. We purchase the gasoline even though we contract out for the busing. We purchase the gasoline ourselves because we purchase it on state contract and we're exempt from the taxes. In the contractual items, you'll see the 12-13. This is when the district operated, when we still had some routes that we were operating ourselves. So they're zeros for this year and next year. And then the bulk of the transportation contractual items is actually our contract with First Student. That is an increase of about 9% next year. Originally, the bids that came in, it was about a 16.5% increase, but working with our consultant, Mark Walsh, who helped us develop the bid specs and work through the negotiations, we were able to lower that. We were recognizing some savings on athletic trips, some savings on the minimum bus route. In our current contract, if we have a bus route in the morning that's an hour and a half and a bus route in the afternoon that's an hour and a half, 3 hours total, the minimum in our contract was we had a 4-hour minimum. So we were paying for 4 hours even though we were using 3. So that's been changed in our contract going forward to a 3-hour minimum. And then as well, we'll be able to bill will be billed in quarterly increments, where before, if we had 3¼ hours, it was 4 hours. So thanks to Mark, we're able to see some savings there. But again, there were definitely increases in their results of First Student's recent contract settlement with their staff. It's reflected in our increased rates. And you can see the amounts for field trips and athletics and summer school are not changed much. Health services, 17 FTE. There's the 1 nursing supervisor, 9 school nurses, and 7 health clerks, 1 health clerk for each building. That's not really a change. There is actually a little bit of a decrease in salaries because of staff leaving and new personnel coming in at lower starting salaries. The contractual item on this in health services is primarily for our school physician services. And supplies are all of the first aid and office supplies in the health offices. That budget is actually down slightly. Now, this is the health curriculum and phys ed. This very minimal budget, $13,000 total. Contractual items are for just fitness inspections and repairs on the fitness equipment at the junior high and the high school. Some membership dues, and then we do include the transportation for the district-wide jump rope contest and the cup stacking contest for the elementary schools. And the PE supplies, those are the building level supplies for all the phys ed teachers. Athletics, this budget is up for the first time in several years. We have been reducing the athletic budget. Coaching salaries are down. Tam actually developed these numbers, so she gave me a detailed spreadsheet with all of the salaries for all of the seasons and the different sports. The contractual items include the athletic trainer contract, which is increased, equipment reconditioning, and memberships and dues. The facility rent, you'll notice, is up significantly. That is because the city has notified us that they will be charging us for the rental of Casey Park, the ice for the hockey team, for practice time, where previously we've only paid for actual game time. So that's about $12,000 of that facility rent. And there's $1,000 we pay to Falcon Park for the baseball team, and there's a new item in there, actually in several categories here is a new item for funding the varsity boys and girls bowling team. So there's stipends in there for coaching and transportation costs and facility rental, $1,000 for the bowling alley. Professional services covers the scorekeepers and the chaperones for all of the contests. The officials' fees are up. Those fees are set by a contract that the officials union or whatever group they are with Section 3. And then the supplies, last year we didn't have any money budgeted for supplies. We are relying solely on the boosters. So this year we are putting some funding back in the budget for athletic supplies. That's it. Any questions?
Lisa, I know they raised the price of the hockey rink and all that. What do we charge City Rec for using our buildings? Do we ever adjust that anymore?
We haven't. We've talked about it.
Because I know they use it for citywide basketball, other games and things like that. And I thought over the years we've been pretty generous with that. And I thought, frankly, it was more like a trade-off. we give them a break, they give us a break, and now it doesn't seem that way anymore. So maybe we ought to draw some attention to that.
I have to agree with Sam. It's a small issue, but it is, this is for our children. We're all community members. We all pay city taxes, or many of us in this district pay city taxes. It's almost like hitting us double. I do know that some public facilities offer for practices and that sort of thing. I know CCC doesn't charge if you're using their facilities for practice. They would only charge you for their facilities if you are asking for money. So the theater or something like that, or a room for a public meeting is free. Except for those things, for using the theater for something you're charging money for. So I'm kind of thinking that there is precedent out in the community that one hand washes the other, and I feel that is sending a lot of bad will out there to charge for practices for that hockey team. Mm-hmm. And it also, makes it a very expensive sport for us to fund. Because of that facility, that added facility rental.
Sure. Thank you.
We're happy to open up discussion with the city regarding that.
I would support any discussion that you wanted to open up with the city.
Okay.
And I think Sam's saying he would also.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
6.0, committee reports, workshops, meetings. 6.1, report on facilities committee meeting held on February 13th, 2014. Mr. Giangreco, Mr. Andre, Mr. Robley, and Mr. Nicole.
Well, at Connie's request, we had another meeting regarding some of the recommendations we're going to make to the board, and we discussed as a facilities committee some of the things that are under consideration. For example, the type of countertops that will go into the sewer project, lighting. We were leaning more towards the LED lighting because a lot of you are probably aware the last time we did an upgrade in these buildings, it was changing the ballasts in all of our buildings, which our custodial staff did in-house. And to this day, you can still see the green stickers on all the fixtures above the lights. We went to a thinner bulb, and now those are becoming obsolete. And anybody goes into a store to try to buy a light bulb today for your own house, you're going to see the same thing happening with us. In fact, Larry brought it to our attention just to dispose of the burned out bulbs costs $1 a piece to turn them back in. And I didn't know that, but it's costly. So looking down the road, we thought the better way to go with the sewer project was the LED project, not only for the brightness, the modification, but that's going to be the norm for all of us sooner than later. So we talked about that. We talked about the furniture in the sewer project. Also, we talked about pricing, and the reason why Connie wanted us to bring this up, because some of the pricing, if we take advantage of it now rather than later, will save the district a lot of money because we can get things cheaper now than wait till things, kind of get racket up a little bit. So we're going to bring that to the board for consideration. We talked about it. Also, the situation regarding the safety issue at the balcony at Auburn Junior High School. We were showed a couple of different designs. We don't want to put anything up there that's going to detract from vision of the games. One of the designs, you've probably seen this around, is like a railing type thing with type of wire through the underneath the railing, or the railing part of it, and it's like a wire fence type thing, but nothing that would be obstructive to view of the spectators. So we're waiting to get figures from Matt Lupiani on that, I believe, and we'll have that shortly. And some figures on some of these other items that I just talked to you about. We want the board any members of the board would like to come to facilities meeting to see exactly what we're talking about and go a little more in-depth, you're more than welcome. But we're looking at things that are cost-effective for the district, going to be a bright situation for the district, and also, above all, safety for the district, and most cost-effective. So that's why Connie convened another meeting with us, and we talked about these issues here, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come. But right now, we're waiting for figures. Once we get that, we'll shoot them across to the board and make some recommendations and go from there.
Thank you.
6.1.1, minutes of facilities committee meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Move.
Moved by Andy,
Second.
seconded by Kathy. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
6.2, report on policy committee meeting held on February 11th, 2014. Mr. Hernandez, Mrs. Grover, and Mrs. Rhodes.
We looked at several policies that we needed to amend. We looked at policy 6470, staff use of computerized information resources. This was being amended to add definitions of public social media network or social networking sites. It also included a definition of district-approved password protection of social media tools. We amended 1332, duties of the school district treasurer and deputy treasurer. This was added to look at the electronic signatures to make sure that that's safeguarded. And it was also included to add obligations, including payments of bond and principals and interest. A couple of these we were getting ready for budget because some of these had to be tweaked due to budget, coming into the budget time that we're doing now. So 5110, budget planning and development. We had to add information about the school report card and where in tax report card, this information are reports that are provided to the community and the link to the SED site. That's mainly what we were putting in for that. 5120, district budget hearing. This also was revised to add the information regarding the New York State School District report cards and property tax report cards. This is also available online at the SED site. And we took those other two pieces out. And we amended policy 1140, which is a student representative to the board. Although the language, we were looking up just cleaning up the language because it implied that we would have the students for a year on the board, but it really didn't really say that. So we cleaned this policy up so that the terms for the student reps would be a year term. So that's what we did. And that was it.
Thank you.
6.2.1, minutes of policy committee meeting.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Sam, seconded by Eli. Discussion?
I have a question. Could we add where these changes have been initiated from? Because sometimes they come from board members, or sometimes they come from administration, some are coming from changes in state regulations and that sort of thing. So just a note, either on the agenda or when we're reviewing them, as to where they were initiated from. I was noticing as I was going through, I don't remember what it was, but it was several months ago, we were having a conversation about something, and just anything. And somebody showed us an example of a policy that came from the Ithaca School District. And in the corner, they had written, this is a local policy, this is a state policy. And that little reference, tells you a lot. It just said local, it said, I don't remember what the policy example was. We were looking at some other issue and looking at how other districts handle it. I don't remember, but.
So are we looking for what's changed?
Well, I'm looking in the minutes, I'm looking in the minutes for that, where did the change come from? Did it come from a committee? I know the tech committee was looking at some changes, and I assume that some of these changes that we've looked at for technical policies have been initiated from from that. That just tells me so much about where it came from. Did it come from BOCES? Did it come from another board member? And just that notation would help to guide me, and I would pay attention differently, depending on where it came from. And then additionally, that idea of, in our policy manual, to note, is this a local policy or is it a state regulation or something like that? I know that we have policies for the audit committee, such as the audit charter, which I brought up earlier. Those are state regs. You know, those aren't necessarily things that we've worded or ever initiated, you know, but, so that would be helpful too. Just some thoughts as we go through. And, you know, and you wouldn't have to go through the whole manual and do it, but just every time we make a change, you know, if we could start to add that as part of what we note in our documentation, I think that would be helpful.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
Dates to remember?
I just noticed one under March, Monday, March 5th, that should be March 3rd. Other than that, can't say anything. Tomorrow night is the Harlem Wizards game. I believe we have some celebrity players that will be playing in that game, so if anybody is able to attend, please attend.
And, can we, March 3rd, I won't be here on March 3rd for the Facilities Committee meeting, just as an FYI, because I'll be in Albany. We might have to change that, unless you feel like you could continue without me, that's fine.
Okay. I'll jump in. Alana, excuse me, what was the time of the hockey game Saturday?
2:30.
It's Casey Park, right?
Yep.
So everybody hear that? Our hockey team's playing 2:30 Saturday. Who are they playing, by the way?
Williamsville East.
Okay.
Right?
Get out there and support them, everybody.
Yeah.
Should be quite a crowd.
What time is it again?
2:30.
I have a question about Thursday night's meeting. It's at 6:30, Thursday night, the long-range planning is at 6:30? I had written down 6 o'clock.
I think
Amanda was the one.
I think
Or was
Amanda
it
was
me?
the one, if I remember it, who said that she couldn't get there till 6:30 or
Okay,
something.
all right. I just had conflicting times. Thank you.
I'll save my LM speech for the next meeting.
Oh, come on, we love you.
We still got one waiting to go before the competition, so.
7.0 old business, 8.0 financial matters, 8.1 donation.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Kathy,
Second.
seconded by Andy. Discussion? Thank you to both of these, Wild for Yogurt and Sam Vitale. Your donations are greatly appreciated. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
8.2 declaration of surplus equipment.
Moved.
Second.
I'm sorry.
Moved by Sam.
Yep.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
8.3 approval construction management services for Seward front entrance and main office project.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Bill,
Second.
seconded by Andy. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
8.5 treasurer's report, period ending 1/31/2014.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Moved by Bill,
Second.
seconded by Kathy. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
8.6 year-to-date budget report, 1/31/2014.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dia,
Second.
seconded by Andy. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
8.7 approval agreement with OCM BOCES to provide classroom technology services.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dia,
Second.
seconded by Eli. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
At this point, the board will consider whether to proceed with the consent agenda for items 9.0 through 13.2, including the addendum items 9.9 and 15.2.
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Bill. Seconded by Andy. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried.
Adjournment.